Hello guys, Eric here, and today I thought I'd show you a little video on how to make a Reuben sandwich casserole. Now if you're like me, you love a good old classic Reuben sandwich. If you're trying to put a little sandwich together for a whole lot of people, it's a lot of work. So this is kind of the best of both worlds, because you can have a Reuben sandwich and you can make it in a big casserole dish to feed a hungry family, or if you got some friends coming over to watch the big game. So today I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. I have the main ingredients sitting here on the table. The first thing you need, of course, is a pound of either pastrami or corned beef. Now I'm lucky enough to live in Southern California. We have a New York deli down the street, and I got a pound, a little over a pound, of fresh sliced corned beef. You can get pastrami as well. If you're lucky enough to live close to a butcher, by all means, go get it freshly sliced. It's much better. Obviously, depending on where you live, you might not have that option, in which case the packaged stuff will work in the pinch as well. The next thing you need, of course, is rye bread. I'm using the Jewish rye bread here because it's got caraway seeds on it, which I really like. In fact, as an option for this recipe, you can sprinkle some caraway seeds on top of the casserole if you like that flavoring. Otherwise, just get the bread with the caraway seeds. Of course, no Reuben sandwich would be complete without some sauerkraut, so you got to have that. Need to have some Swiss cheese. You can also use provolone if you don't have Swiss. Either one will work. The liquid that's going to bind this together is going to be a combination of mustard and Thousand Island dressing, or you can use Russian dressing. Now the recipe just calls for regular yellow mustard. I like to spice it up a little bit, so I got the deli style with horseradish, which is a nice complement to either corned beef or pastrami. And then an optional thing you may or may not want to put in is a pickle, dill pickle. Adds a little different flavor to it. Some people, if you don't like pickles, leave it out. It's not necessary, but I'm going to make mine today with some dill pickles. So the first thing we got to do is take some of this bread out, dry it out, make some breadcrumbs. We want to make a combination of some really fine breadcrumbs, which is going to go on top of the casserole. And then on the bottom of the casserole, we want thicker pieces, but we definitely want to dry them out a little bit. Otherwise, you're going to get too soggy when you bake this casserole. So let me show you the next step right now. Okay guys, the first thing we need to do is to make some breadcrumbs for the bottom of our casserole. Like I just mentioned, we want to make sure we dry it out. Now what I did is just slice up the bread. It's not real complicated. You want to make little tiny cubes. And this is the easiest way. You know, I mean, obviously you can dry the bread out. You can, heat up your oven to around, say, I don't know, 200 degrees, and just put the bread slices on the stove rack. The rack's in the stove. Turn the oven off, leave them in there for 45 minutes to an hour. You don't want to get them toasted, but you just want to get all the moisture out of the bread. So you just cut it up in these little cubes here, and I'm just going to throw them in the bottom of this casserole dish. Now what we want, this recipe calls for 6 slices, but we're only going to use 4 for the bottom because we want the last 2, we want to make it much finer than this, almost like a breadcrumb, to be sprinkled on top. So the easiest way to dry these out, if you're in a hurry, if you don't want to mess with, doing a whole separate step, I found this is the simplest thing to do. Just slice 4 slices of rye bread like I did here, little cubes. You have to preheat the oven to 350 degrees for this recipe. So let me turn the oven on to 350. And what I'm going to do typically takes the stove, 10 minutes to warm up to temperature, maybe 12. I'm just going to stick it in a non-greased pan directly in the oven and just let this cook a little bit and dry out while the oven is coming up to temperature. Real simple and basic. So just throw that in the oven, and hopefully your oven's probably like mine. It'll beep once it reaches the desired temperature, and then you should take it out and we should be okay. So we'll be back in 1 second once that's all dried out. Alright guys, in the meantime, while we're waiting for the stove to come up to temperature, I figure it's a good time to open a cold beer, and I thought I'd do a little review of a local beer here. I've never tried this before, but the name kind of caught my attention. This is made by a brewery called Elysian Brewery out of Seattle, Washington. I don't know much about it. I did a little research. They own 4 restaurants and a full production brewery. up in the Seattle area. This one is called Loser, and then it says on top, corporate beer still sucks. So obviously they're playing a pun on, you know, being a microbrewery compared to being one of the big major breweries. And 22-ounce bottle that I picked up at the store. It's 7% alcohol, and from what I read online, they said it has a light tropical flavor balanced with a crisp malt hop finish. So I'll give you my opinion on this. You know, and of course, I do enjoy cooking, but of course, I'm going to go through the hassle and be in the kitchen. I want to have a ice-cold beverage to enjoy as well. So, again, Loser Pale Ale. It's an IPA. Let me give you my opinion here. Oh, yeah, it's good. Ooh. Definitely can taste the hops. It's a very hoppy beer, but it's good. It's very flavorful. Anyway, we'll be back in just a second once this oven heats up, and I'll show you how to layer the casserole out in the dish. Be right back. Alright guys, my oven just beeped, so it's been preheated to 350 degrees. I'm going to take out the breadcrumbs. I don't know how well you're going to see this on camera, but they're definitely a little crisp, they're definitely hard, and they're dry, which is how we want them. Our main purpose here is just to make sure they don't get too soggy, since it's going to be the bottom layer of the casserole. So just dump those out onto a plate or something, because we want to grease this pan. I didn't want to grease it for this because I wanted it not to necessarily get oily. I just wanted it to get really dry. Alright. So now let me get the rest of the ingredients together and I'll show you how to put this casserole together. Okay guys, we're all set to go to make this casserole. So we got the nice baking dish here. You want to put some non-stick spray on here, whether it's Pam, this is canola oil. I guess you could use vegetable oil or even butter if you had to. You just want to make sure nothing's going to stick here. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to put that dried out breadcrumbs on the very bottom here. This is going to serve as our base. Just obviously spread it out nice and even. Okay. Now we're going to put some of the meat. Now what I did is I took that full pound of corned beef and I sliced it in little tiny cubes, mainly because when you dip into the casserole, you don't want a long, stringy piece of meat. You want to have it so you have a bite of corned beef in every bite. So we're just going to do half of the corned beef right now. We don't want to go too crazy here because we want to make it in layers. So you're just going to kind of spread it out evenly. And like I said, try to eye it as best you can. Half of the meat. And try, obviously, to spread it out. That piece didn't get cut too well. But of course, it doesn't have to be a science. Oh, I love the smell of the corned beef, man. It's getting me hungry already. Okay, so we spread out the corned beef and look around half. Yeah, that looks around half. Okay. So now, I had my 15 ounces of sauerkraut. Now, I just drained this. I put it in a colander and drained it in the sink. Some people, you know, if you don't like the taste of sauerkraut, might want to rinse it. I didn't want to rinse it because I still want to maintain some of that juice in the sauerkraut to add to the overall flavor of the casserole. So I just drained it. I don't rinse it. But of course, you can experiment. So now we only want to use, well, actually we want to use the whole thing of this. So, again, just spread it out evenly. You can see there's still some juice in here. We don't want it too dry. Okay. Spread that out nice and even. This is such an easy recipe, you know. If you got some friends coming over, you want to have something to you know, to eat, to have fun. This is a quick and easy dish to do, relatively quick. You can make it the day before, and then just stick it in the oven when your guests come over. Now I took some pickles and chopped them into small pieces. you want to have 1 cup of dill pickles. So again, we're just going to spread the dill pickles on top of the sauerkraut. No rocket science here. Pretty basic. Alright, now, the recipe calls for 4 cups of cheese. My wife is a cheeseaholic, so I actually did more, closer to 6 cups. But of course, you can adjust the recipe accordingly. It's only calling for 2 cups now because we're going to layer it again with the corned beef and another layer of cheese. So basically around half, 2 cups of cheese you want to sprinkle on top. Of course, my wife says there's no such thing as too much cheese. She loves cheese, and I have to say I love cheese too. Everything tastes better with some melted cheese on it. All right, I think, well, let me do a little bit more. I'll push it down a little bit, flatten it out. I think that's around half. All right, now we're just going to put the remainder of that delicious corned beef on top, kind of the second layer. Perfect. Looking good. All right, push it down a little bit there, nice. And now, top it off with the remaining cheese. Try, obviously, to get it over everything. Oh man, this looks good. Okay, push it down. Okay, now all we need to do is to put the liquid agents in there to kind of help bind it together. So I will show you what that consists of and how that works in just a second. We'll put this off to the side. I'll be right back. Okay guys, we got the casserole pretty much done. Now we're just going to make the liquid to pour on top to help bind it all together. First thing you want to do is get a mixing bowl and you want to put 3 eggs in there. I've already taken the liberty of cracking 3 eggs and sticking it in there. Adding to the egg mixture, we're going to add that Thousand Island dressing. It's 1/3 of a cup. If you guys want to know the exact measurements, I'll make sure to leave them in the video description. So you want to put 1/3 cup of the Thousand Island. Next, we want to put the mustard, and it asks for 1/4 cup of mustard. So 3 eggs, the Thousand Island or Russian dressing, the mustard, and then we want to put 1 cup of milk. Now one thing I want to mention too, normally I season everything, you know, salt and pepper. This I don't really season because, you know, the beef is cured and it's got a lot of salt in it already. So I would not recommend going ahead and salting or peppering this. It might be too much. So once you get all those ingredients, we're just going to whip them up here like this to make this kind of cream mixture. You want to make sure to whip it really good. Over here in this bowl, this is what I'm going to put on as a topping. Now this is the same thing, breadcrumbs from that rye bread. How I got it this fine here is I put my oven on 200 degrees. I let it warm up. I put, I think I put 5 or 6 slices. Recipe only calls for 4, but you know, I wanted to make sure I had enough. I just laid it right on the rack of the oven. Once it hit 200 degrees, I turned the oven off and I just let the bread sit in there for around an hour. I came back, the bread wasn't toasted. It's just really hard, really crunchy, and then it's real easy to just kind of grind with your fingers into this fine kind of crumbly, crouton-y breadcrumb consistency. You don't want it really chunky, you want it a little bit more fine. So as you can see, I've whipped this all up now. And then all we're going to do is just pour this on top of the mixture. It smells wonderful. So we're just going to try to evenly pour this as best we can. right over the casserole. Oh man, it smells so good already, and I haven't even put it in the oven. There you have it. Once we've done that, we're just going to top it off now with these fine breadcrumbs. I'm getting excited to try this in a little bit when this is done. So we had our oven already preheated to 350 degrees. What we're going to do is we're going to stick it in. We're going to cover this with foil. And we're going to let it cook for maybe 25 minutes or so. Kind of get it nice and heated up. We're putting the foil on it because we don't want to burn, or crisp up, I should say, the breadcrumbs on top. I think that's about it. Why not put a little bit more? So we're gonna cook it covered for around 20-25 minutes, and then, you know, for the last 25 or 20 minutes, you could take the foil off and let those breadcrumbs on top kind of get crispy. If you're like me, I always kind of like to turn the broiler on, stick it in the broiler there for a few minutes just to get really toasty on top. So we just take that like this, we stick it in the oven, and 20 minutes with the foil on it. I'll come and take the foil off it in around 20 minutes. You want to cook it 40 to 45 minutes at 350. So we'll be back in a little bit to check this out when it's done. Okay guys, I just took it out of the oven. You can see it's a little crispy on top. I took the foil off around 20 minutes before it was done, and just kind of wanted to get a little bit of crispy here. So I am going to cut a piece here and show you guys how it looked like. Oh man, it smells absolutely wonderful. Oh man. Hey Monica. Monica, come check it out. I'm calling my wife to see. Oh man.
Oh, it smells good.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Wow. Wow.
Here, try a piece right here.
Wow, that looks good.
I got to get a piece close to the camera here to show.
That's good.
I'm going to show. We got some pastrami and the melted cheese and the rye bread.
Looks good. All right, here we go.
All right, let's see. Hope it's not too long.
Mmm.
Mm.
Wow. This is one of the best meals I think I've ever eaten in my entire life.
Wow. Oh man, all the flavors.
Wow.
Can you taste the pickle?
Yeah, I can taste everything. This is amazing. Thanks for making this. You just saved me having to cook tonight.
Mmm. Wow. Yeah, it definitely tastes like a Reuben sandwich, except warmer, because it's like been in this casserole dish, and the cheese. And man,
wow,
the pickle kind of gives it that little different zing to it.
It's melded together so well. It's like eating a Reuben sandwich, but it takes your senses to like a whole new level. Mm. Wow, very good. Proud of you.
All right, guys. Well,
it's a winner.
Thanks for watching. I'll try to make some more cooking videos as we go along. Thanks for watching. See you next time.